Imagine descending nearly 11 kilometers beneath the surface of the ocean. No sunlight, no familiar sounds, and enough pressure to crush objects built to survive almost anywhere else on Earth. This is the Mariana Trench, the deepest known part of our planet. But the deeper we go, the stranger the questions become. How can anything survive in a world of absolute darkness and crushing pressure? What kind of creatures could live where sunlight has never reached? And perhaps the most unsettling question of all, if humans have only explored a tiny fraction of this hidden world, what could still be waiting down there? Today, we're descending into the Mariana Trench, from the bright surface of the Pacific Ocean to the darkest depths ever explored, to discover what really exists nearly 11 kilometers below the waves. But reaching the deepest place on Earth was once thought to be almost impossible. In 1960, scientists faced a question no one could answer from the ocean's surface. What was actually waiting nearly 11 kilometers below? To find out, two men climbed into a strange-looking deep-sea vessel called the Trieste. On January 23, 1960, Jacques Piccard and Don Walsh began their descent toward the Challenger Deep. As the Trieste sank deeper, sunlight disappeared behind them, and the pressure outside became stronger with every meter. At thousands of meters below the surface, the ocean was no longer the familiar blue world we know. It was completely dark, freezing cold, and surrounded by crushing pressure. And still, the Trieste continued downward, because somewhere beneath them was a place no human had ever reached before. After nearly 5 hours of descent, the Trieste finally reached the bottom of the Challenger Deep. But instead of revealing a strange underwater landscape, the first thing they saw was almost nothing. As the bathyscaphe settled onto the seafloor, a cloud of fine sediment rose around the vessel, blocking their view. For several minutes, the world outside remained hidden. Then, slowly, the water began to clear. And what appeared in the darkness was something scientists had not expected to find at all. Life. At a depth of more than 10 kilometers, beneath enormous pressure and in complete darkness, the ocean floor was not completely lifeless. Piccard and Walsh used their lights to search the seafloor and reported seeing marine life moving through the sediment. That moment changed one of the biggest assumptions about the deep ocean. If life could survive here, then the real question was no longer whether life could exist at the greatest depths. The question was how. But finding life at the bottom of the Mariana Trench was only the beginning, because one question was even harder to answer. If sunlight never reaches this world, where does the food come from? At the surface, most ocean life is ultimately connected to sunlight. Tiny organisms use sunlight to create energy, and that energy moves through the food chain. But thousands of meters below, there are no plants growing in the darkness. Instead, much of the deep ocean depends on something scientists call marine snow. It isn't snow at all. Tea is a slow, endless rain of tiny particles, dead plankton, organic material, and fragments of life falling from the upper ocean toward the seafloor. For creatures living in the darkness below, these sinking particles can become an unexpected source of food. And sometimes, even that isn't enough. Some deep-sea environments can support life through a completely different process, one powered not by sunlight, but by chemical energy. So even in a place that looks completely lifeless from above, an entire food web can exist in the darkness. But the food isn't the strangest thing about life in the Mariana Trench. The deeper scientists explored, the more unusual the creatures became. Down here, animals don't just have to find food. They have to survive pressure hundreds of times greater than what we experience at the surface. And that pressure has shaped their bodies in remarkable ways. One of the most fascinating examples is the deep-sea snailfish. At first glance, it doesn't look like a creature built for one of the most extreme environments on Earth. Its body is small, soft, and almost fragile-looking. But that softness may be exactly what allows it to survive. Unlike animals with rigid structures that can be damaged by extreme pressure, the snailfish's body is highly adapted to life in the deep. Scientists have found these fish living at depths where sunlight has been gone for thousands of meters. And the deeper we look, the more surprising their adaptations become. Because in the Mariana Trench, surviving isn't about being the strongest. It's about being perfectly adapted to a world that would destroy almost everything else. But the snailfish is not the only creature that has adapted to this extreme world. As researchers sent cameras deeper into the Mariana Trench, they began finding animals that looked almost impossible to exist down there. Some were almost completely transparent. Others had tiny bodies with unusual shapes that would seem completely out of place in the shallow ocean. And then there were creatures that could produce their own light. In a world where sunlight has disappeared thousands of meters above them, bioluminescence becomes more than just a strange feature. It can help animals communicate, attract prey, or confuse predators in the darkness. But perhaps the strangest thing about these creatures is not how they look. It's how perfectly they fit an environment that would be deadly to most life on the surface. Their bodies, their behavior, and even the way they find food have been shaped by millions of years in darkness and extreme pressure. And every time scientists explore a little deeper, they discover another reminder that the deep ocean may be far stranger than anything we imagined. But one question still remains. How deep can life actually survive? At nearly 11 kilometers below the surface, pressure is hundreds of times greater than at the ocean above. Yet some microorganisms can still function in these extreme conditions. And that raises an even bigger question. If life can survive here on Earth, could similar life exist in the hidden oceans of other worlds? But there is something even more disturbing about the Mariana Trench. We once believed that a place this deep was almost completely untouched by humans. Then scientists began studying samples collected from its deepest regions. And they found something that shouldn't have been there. Tiny particles of plastic. Even in one of the most remote and difficult to reach places on Earth, traces of human pollution had found their way into the deep ocean. The deepest place on our planet wasn't beyond our reach after all. And despite everything we have discovered, the Mariana Trench remains largely unexplored. The problem isn't simply reaching the bottom. Every mission requires specialized machines that can survive enormous pressure, extreme cold, and complete darkness. A deep-sea vehicle may spend hours collecting images and samples before it has to begin the long journey back to the surface. That means scientists can only see a tiny part of this enormous underwater world at a time. And somewhere beyond those explored areas, there may still be discoveries waiting to be made. For decades, the Mariana Trench was a place humans could only imagine. Today, we know that beneath nearly 11 kilometers of ocean, there is an entire world shaped by darkness, extreme pressure, and complete isolation. We have discovered creatures that adapted to conditions once thought impossible for life. But despite all our technology, most of this world remains unexplored. And perhaps that's what makes the Mariana Trench so fascinating. The more we discover about its depths, the more we realize how little we truly understand about our own planet. Because somewhere beneath the Pacific Ocean, hidden in a darkness we can barely reach, there may still be secrets waiting for us to find. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Earth Uncovered Media, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next journey into the unknown. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next documentary.